Please share this video once you've watched it, as it may help us all in the long run. First, I'm going to show you how sacred geometry and the 60-digit cipher can be used to decode our DNA, and then I will roll back and explain exactly how I got to this geometrical shape. Look at these images of chemical bonds and take special note of the underlying geometry involved. These are actual images of chemical bonds between atoms. The images are produced using an atomic force microscope. You can Google the term images of atoms with atomic force microscope to confirm this. We cannot see individual atoms, but we can see the force or bond between the atoms. This force produces this hexagonal field. And if you compare these to the images of sacred geometry and Metatron's cube, you will see the same hexagonal pattern. If you watch my earlier videos, you will see how this hexagon is produced by linking smaller circles together. For now, we are simply interested in that hexagonal pattern that emerges. If we take the Fibonacci 60-digit cipher from the first video and convert that circle into a hexagon, I will explain this conversion later. If we take the resulting hexagon and use this to build those chemical bonds, we can now convert those atomic bonds into a string of code. I think that if we use this method, we can decode our own DNA and turn it into a programmable code that will allow us to study our DNA and the chemical bonds in far greater detail. I admit that this process is not as simple as taking this hexagon and plugging it into any chemical bond diagram. There is still one major step missing. I need help studying this, as I am not familiar with chemistry or molecular biology. But I hope you can see the potential of being able to take these chemical bonds and convert them into a string of code. It could change our entire understanding of the entire atomic world. Going back to the hexagon, let me explain where it came from. I might even be able to explain what light is and where atoms come from. We need to change our idea that atoms are subatomic little particles that we cannot see. An atom is something that is happening. It is an event. For example, if I take 20 people and give them all drinks and turn on some music so they can all dance together and exchange information, I can call that event a party. A party is not an object, it is something that is happening. This is why we cannot see atoms. They are not objects, but events, or rather the exchange of information that is unfolding so quickly we cannot see the process with the naked eye. We have to start with light. What do we know about light? We know that light is a wave and a particle, and that light carries information. Scientists call the light particle a photon. Once again, they know that a photon has no mass or size, but they have given it a name, and now they think of it as an invisible object. A photon is also only something that is happening. Do this. Take a pen and draw a circle on a page. By drawing that circle, what have you done? You have created an infinite point in space where before there was none. By drawing the circumference of the circle, you have created an infinite nucleus. Now, if light is a wave that radiates in all directions, then light is making a circle. Light is something that is happening. Light is the radiation of energy. I like to think of light as the radiation of information. Light carries information outward in waves. By creating a circle, that wave will also create an infinite point at its center. That infinite point or nucleus is what scientists call a photon, and think of as an invisible, massless particle. That particle or photon only comes into existence when we collapse the wave function and see light as traveling in a straight line. But more on that later. If we start with one circle, let's take the Fibonacci 60-digit repeat cycle from the first video, and we expand it in waves which are all fractals or replicas of the first circle. Do it this way. Imagine that we had the one Fibonacci circle that exploded in a big bang and started to radiate its information outward in waves that are replicas of itself. This is what will happen. The first wave will contain 6 new circles, as seen in the image. The original circle at the center has now dissipated after it exploded. If you connect these 6 new circles at their nuclei, you will form a hexagon. Our initial circle, which was our original geometry, has now produced a secondary geometrical shape, being the hexagon with an infinite nucleus or black hole. If we continue outwards for 10 cycles or 10 waves, since we are using base 10 mathematics, the 10th wave will be a hexagon with a circumference made up of exactly 60 of our original building blocks or circles. The information has now radiated outward, but every individual circle or building block still contains all the information from the original. We can then take the 60 numbers from the Fibonacci digit repeat cycle, which was our first circle, and then enter those numbers onto the 60 outer circles in the final hexagon. This essentially creates a fractal pattern in which the larger image contains all the same information as each individual building block, exactly like the cells in your own body. We can now map the 60-digit hexagon into our chemical bonds to create strings of data. It is, however, not as simple as plug and play. There are some steps missing, and I do not have the knowledge to go much further on my own, though I will keep learning and trying. I strongly believe that we ourselves are in fact made up of these strings of data. In fact, I believe the entire universe is created using this matrix, and these may in fact be the very strings that string theorists are studying. We are all simply made up of strings of information. Maybe with this discovery we can decode that information and enter it into our own dimension or virtual world. I am of course only speculating. I don't know what the true implications of this discovery would be. But look at these images once again. The world cannot continue to ignore the obvious connection between what atoms are doing and the patterns in sacred geometry. If you enter Metatron's cube into that larger hexagon, which I created earlier, it then creates a perfect snowflake or water crystal. This is clearly how energy converts into matter. It is important to note that if we could somehow zoom beyond the wavelength of light into the subatomic level, we would not see actual strings of numbers. I am not saying the universe is literally made up of tiny numbers linked into a string. If you look at the numbers themselves, you will see that there is an energy or movement in the numbers. They are not all ones and zeros. The numbers jump from a 1 to a 7 to an 8, etc. And they move in cycles or waves. There's an innate energy in the movement of these numbers. If you compare them to musical notes, if you had to play the different notes, the resulting music would have an energy to it. This is the energy we are seeing as the force between atoms. I am saying that we can use these numbers to decode that energy. The universe is built using this matrix, but we will never see the matrix. We are after all inside the matrix. We will only see the energy converting into mass. One last bit of information. That hexagon to the 10th level contains 330 individual building blocks. If we divide 330 by 24, we get 13.75. Scientists estimate the age of the universe to be 13.75 billion years, and 137.5 degrees is also the golden angle. We have 24 hours in a day. If you look at the hexagon as a three-dimensional cube, each face has 120 building blocks, which give you a perfect 360. It is also incredible. Thank you for watching.